This is Page Up with Dr. Angela Lauria, helping you write a nonfiction book that gets clients, drives revenue, and builds credibility. Learn more at pageuppodcast.com. So, does anybody know how to lose weight? Yep. 2 key components.
Eat less.
Eat less. Exercise more. You've got it. Would it help you if I gave you more information? No. Nope, don't need any more information. Maybe somebody doesn't know that. Maybe there's like, I don't know, a 9-year-old who's surprised. Oh, if you eat less, you lose weight? Like maybe somebody's surprised. But generally, the problem is not implementation. Generally, the problem is not more information. In fact, more information really confuses us. Because it's like, if I gave you more information on weight loss, it might be, I've told you all about Jenny Craig. You all agree this is clearly the best option. I sign up to implement Jenny Craig. And then while we're there, you're going to teach me about isogenics. So now should I be doing Jenny Craig and isogenics? But isogenics says never have frozen food, and this is all frozen food. So should I just do the Jenny Craig? People get confused with more information. Right? It doesn't tend to serve them. It kind of serves us because we're all nerds. Like they're not here, we are, right? Like we're like, oh, more information. Let me tell you about the elusive 8th chakra. Nobody knows about this, right? It's just like, it does not actually help people. What helps people is telling them the result, giving them a plan, holding them accountable to it, and implementing it. So you guys are going to leave here with your plan. There's going to be a million reasons not to implement it. Just like when you signed up to write a book, there were a million reasons not to finish your book. You're confused, your husband thinks it's a bad idea, you break your ankle, you got to get a new kitchen, somebody steals your car, like there's your computer explodes. Like there's a million reasons not to finish. I couldn't get this, but just holding them accountable is enough. So Oprah said this, and I totally love it. She says, your presence is your present. Literally, just being there for them to answer a question. If your entire back end is, I will give you my cell phone number, it is worth $6,000 a year. If they actually implement your plan, like that, the implementation is the value, right? It's not worth anything if they don't implement. I know everything about being gallery ready. I'm not doing any of it, but I know it. That's really worth $0. So the key components for me for the quill are, and I do this weekly, you don't have to, but I do weekly calls, so just like we've been doing the author calls, I do weekly calls where we talk about your plan. So you were supposed to have 16 strategy sessions this month. That means you were supposed to have 4 this week. How are we doing? So we're going to specifically talk about your plan. And then if you're not doing that, why? And sometimes it's a conscious choice, and we'll be like, oh yeah, no, don't want to do it this month for this reason. And sometimes people have huge months where they blow it up and they hit their number 2 weeks in and we celebrate, which is totally awesome. Some people finish their book early and we celebrated. It's very much like that. So what's the plan? I literally remind you of your plan every week because we all have amnesia. Like, I don't know how many times I've had to be reminded, eat less, exercise more. So I will remind you what the plan is. This is because it works for me. You don't have to do Facebook. You could do, what Brooke does is Slack. What is that? Slack is like a messaging tool. It's kind of like an instant messenger. Okay, then we do, so the weekly calls are on Zoom, obviously. The weekly Facebook group. And then we do, so there's 10 live events. There's actually probably more at the castle. So every time I have a group here, you are invited. So you basically have open door access to the castle. Your plan is going to change you can build a new plan. We do a private dinner when you come back for your second private dinner Saturday night. When you come back for your second time or beyond, you get to do dinner Saturday night, and then we go hang out in the hot tub and drink, and we kind of talk more in depth about your stuff privately. So you get to come back and you get to learn this again, and you can see how it's super simple and then super hard. So what I tell people is anytime you're not at your number, just come back, we'll look at what's working and what isn't. You get to present your funnel, and we get to figure out, diagnose it, and see what isn't working. Now, we're doing that every week on the call, but it's different when you get to come here and we have lunch and we have dinner and we hang out. So this is really what I do. Now, there are a bunch of bonuses I'm going to tell you about, but the main meat of what your back end should be is really some version of this. Now, I have lots of clients whose back end is literally giving people their cell phone number. So the back end is all year, you have unlimited access to me, call me, text me, anytime you want, I'm there for you. That literally could be it. And that's kind of what my mentor does. Who was I was telling you about the Chagall from Brian. So Brian is my mentor, and that's literally, I pay him $10,000 a month, and our entire relationship is whenever you need anything, day or night, text me. He doesn't always respond day or night, but he usually does get back to me pretty quickly. He's an early person, I'm a late person, so I text him at 2 a.m. and he calls me at 7 a.m. It's very convenient. But like anytime I have a question with anything, I needed to like lay someone off, that wasn't super awesome. I had him look at the termination form. He's like, yeah, I wouldn't do 2 weeks notice, I'd give him 4 weeks notice, here's why. Like any question I have, he helped me get key man insurance. Didn't know that was a thing, had never heard of it. After I ran myself over with a car, he suggested perhaps there was a type of insurance I maybe needed. So it's called key man insurance.
There's a lot
I
of
get it.
policies.
It means I'm the key man.
You're the business woman.
Yeah, exactly. So didn't know about that. That seemed like a good investment. So literally the entire plan is I pay him $10,000 a month. He answers my phone calls. That could be all you offer. Literally, that could be all you offer. And how valuable would it be if people actually implemented the plan? A plan to lose 100 pounds, worth nothing. Implementation of the plan, losing 100 pounds, could save a few toes. Okay, so that's really the main heart of it. Now, I like doing bonuses, so I'm gonna share with you guys our bonuses. So for us, and bonuses for you guys, you should probably include some live component. So we have the monthly events that you can come back to any month. You're welcome back to the castle. But we also have a special event, which you guys have probably heard of, which is your red carpet launch. So that's a quill-only event. It's 2 days. We do some marketing stuff, but mostly we're creating marketing content. We're doing your launch, and that's most of what's happening. But obviously I'm there. You'll ask me a bunch of marketing questions. It's a much more, I was going to say informal, but we're in ball gowns. It's a much more, we're hanging out. We're in ball gowns, but we're hanging out. So there's a lot of, we're taking pictures, we're making videos. There's a lot of sort of connecting. We also obviously do all of your publishing, so you don't have to worry about it. The main reason I include this is just because I want you focused on building your business. The publishing services, and if anybody knows they want an introduction to Allie, like she'll do all this for $2,500. I just haven't organized myself exactly, but I could just pay the $2,500 to Allie and have her do it. Like, I just like having control over it. She doesn't do anything significantly different than what we do. You can think of it as a $2,500 bonus. We will spend money. She doesn't include the editing, so ours includes the editing. So maybe it's a $4,500 or a $5,000 bonus. But I want to hold you close so that you don't go, because what happens when, like, Allie doesn't do the editing, so she's going to recommend an editor, and the editor's going to be like, well, why are you writing about this? And then all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh, I really should have done the book about basketball. And then you're like down the rabbit hole to find a new book. So I know with our editors, I work very closely with them. So you will be, if you join the Quill, you'll be assigned an editor. You'll start, I have a meeting with them all day. Tuesday, I meet with your editors. Wednesday, we have a handoff meeting where I will meet with you on Zoom and your editor. We'll go over what I think your issues are. And then I'll be working with your editor in the background, so I know they're not going to say something like, have you ever thought about working with millennial women? And you're like, I just changed my mind on that, right? So that I lose control when you leave me, and there's like just a rabbit hole. So I just include it because I don't want you going down the rabbit holes. I'm like, everybody, muster the troops. Okay, so we're going to do all that. I will obviously represent you as your agent, so we can get you in bookstores. I will also be representing you as your agent to try and get you on a reality TV show if that happens. It's obviously not guaranteed. The bookstore distribution I can pretty much guarantee if you want it. You don't have to do it. But if you want to be in bookstores, that I can guarantee. I'm working to be in a place where I can guarantee you a TV show, but that I don't quite have yet.
So does that include hard copy? Because I saw somewhere it said $2 to $3 a book.
Yeah, so you get 100 copies of your book at no charge. And then print cost after about $3 a book. Lots of variables on that, but for your book it'll be about $3.
The going into the bookstores, is that going to be, that would be an additional cost afterwards? That's a royalty thing?
Yeah, there's no additional cost to anything. There's no additional cost except your print costs. So there's no cost for me being your agent. There's no cost for foreign rights. Like if we get foreign rights deals, I'll help you negotiate those. If you get your own TV deal, I will look at your contracts and I'll work with you on that. And that actually has happened. Unfortunately, the person it happened for, I was telling some people about Janeda Clark who died. She got a TV offer like right before she died. But I did review her contract for her. So the additional cost is that if you decide you want your book in bookstores, I hate this, but it's true, the distributors will take 80%. If you just want to sell your book on Amazon, you get 100% of the royalties. I don't take any of the money at all. I don't want any of the money. If you go to the distributor takes 80%. You get to be in bookstores, but there is a cost. Now that said, you increase circulation, so maybe you make more money. We will make that decision together. We have a very particular call with our director of publishing and our print production manager, and we sit down as a team and decide if it makes sense for you and your book to be in bookstores. So that is totally an option. Okay, here's a fun one. People get excited about this bonus. You can write a second book. Now, yeah, so most people at the end of this have an idea for another book, or 4 or 2 more. I have a rule with this, which is I have to approve it, just like I did for you to get in the program. I didn't used to have this rule, but I had somebody come in to write a second book, and it's a book I never would have approved, and it kind of screwed up everyone in the cohort because it wasn't a fit. But I said you could write a second book, and I felt like I didn't want to break my I have to approve. You still have to go through the application process. You don't have to go through the interview. But there is a form you will need to fill out where you will need to tell me about your book and why you want to write it. And I have to be convinced you're not just hiding from, actually making a difference. So there is an approval process. Tamara, you can see, is in there right now and she's doing it. I want to make sure that you're not running away. What happened with Tamara was she made her offer, she sold it like crazy. It evolved into a second offer. She has a great book idea for the second offer. It makes total sense for her to write it. But if you're not making any money and you're just writing a book to hide, I won't approve it. Or if you're writing a book that I really think I can't help you with, just to be fair, I won't approve it. So, and then I say a whole bunch of other top secret stuff, which is like the TV show. So whatever else I'm working on, you will get sucked into. for sure. Oh, and then somebody asked about this. So you get student center access to everything. So you'll get this training, you'll get all the other trainings, everything I have in the student center, past, present, and future. You get access to all of it, and you get access to it. This program is actually 14 months. So there's 2 months between now and when you publish, which is August 3rd. So you'll be here on the 2nd, we publish the 3rd. And then it's a year from your publication date. So you'll be in the program until August of 2018. Now by that point, your book is in bookstores, you're at your revenue number, or at least we can see a clear path to your revenue number. That is kind of the goal. And you've got maybe your second book written if you decide that's something you want. The biggest value of the program is the accountability. So these bonuses, like you can't buy getting in stores, but you could buy getting your book published. You could spend less money than you will on the quill on throwing your own red carpet, find a friend with a fancy house, rent a house on Airbnb, find 10 friends to support you. You could get a videographer, you can get a professional photographer, you could go set up some landing pages, you could buy Facebook ads and drive people to the launch. It is not rocket science, like you could definitely do that. You can go hire Allie and get your book published. Like these are all 100 copies of your book. It's gonna cost me $3 a copy. That's worth $300, like, right? Not trying to like hide these expenses. Writing book number 2, you know how much that would cost you. You could just come back and write book number 2. So these bonuses are nice, but the reason to do it is because you're gonna create a plan that you're like, chance of me implementing on my own, meh, probably less good. And I don't want to mess around with it right now. But you might be like where Cynthia is, where she's like, I really got to focus on my PhD right now. I don't want to implement this. I want to do my PhD, and that's totally fine. Now you know how to create a plan. And when you're ready, the way it works is the program until June 1st, because you guys are the last people on the old pricing. So the program it's 6 payments of $5K. So it's 6 payments of $5K for the year, or you can do a one-time payment of $25K. Now, if you come back in 6 months and you want to do it, there's no one-time payment option, but we just, well, there is a one-time payment option, but there's no discount. So it would be 8 payments of $5K, or if you wanted to pay it one time, it'd be $40K. There's no difference in the price. So you can totally come back at any point. Oh, and it'll be whatever the price is then, which I'm changing it to something else. I think it's going up to 45. So it'll be the price that it is then, whatever. It'll be 9 payments actually of $5K and $45 if you came back in 6 months. Unless I raise the price again. It'll be whatever the full price is. If you want the credit for the work that you've done, what you need to do is you will each get, and this is what I recommend that you do with your people. So even if you already know you're not in, take this because you can copy this for how you work with your people. So this packet describes what we're gonna do. You would send this as a PDF if you were doing it on the phone at week 7, right? So you would do the call with them on week 7, their regular call. You would say to them, hey, you can go it on your own or let me know before our call next month. And then you would email them this as a follow-up, and this is what they would send back to you. For you guys, you're gonna go work on your plan tonight. You're gonna review all this. There are a couple things I wanna explain on here, and you will bring it back signed. It needs to be turned in by lunchtime because it will determine how I run that last session with you. So you do have 2 options. You can go monthly. If you go month to month, there's a $5K startup fee, and then you pay $5K a month, but you're not committed to the whole year. If you commit to the whole year, it's obviously a lot cheaper. You only have to pay $5K for 6 months. But let's say you only wanted to do it for a month, you could pay $10K, you'd have access to the first month, and then you could give your notice. So you can read that. The reason I do that, by the way, is because at month 3, if you decide you want to leave, we just roll you over to monthly. So you just have one more $5K payment, and then you can leave. So that gives us like a nice rollover, so you're not committed if you don't want to be. There are a couple things on here that might be confusing. Paul can help you, but it says onboarding fee, monthly fee, one-time fee. For most of you guys, if you pick the annual plan, you'll just pick monthly fee of $5,000. If you pick the one-time fee of $25,000, you put it there. There's no onboarding fee unless you're doing the month-to-month plan. Okay, so most of you will just put monthly fee $5,000. Some of you will put one-time fee $25,000. And when you read that, it'll make sense. There's a couple other things in there that you can read. You will then complete the enrollment form. Now, you may need to, and then there's an agreement, blah, 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 words. You may need, with the enrollment form, to jiggle money around. Some people want to pay $25K, but they got to pull it out of a 401K or home equity line or something like that. Super easy. Just put a credit card here and then make a note, don't charge me for 3 days because I want to pay in full. The credit card is just a placeholder and your signature is just a placeholder, so we'll charge the card if you don't figure it out. But people just work out with Paul if it's going to take them a few days to move money around or whatever they need to do. So the credit card's just a placeholder. We won't charge it until you we don't want to surprise you with the charge. So I saw Francesca, you had a
So
question.
month to month is just really 15 commitment, and then you're in or you're out, but the 6 payments is still just 6 payments, and you're still in for 18 or 14 months. 6 payments of 5.
It's 6 payments of $5K for the 14 months. The monthly fee, you could stay in for as many months as you want. It's just $5K every month. It's like my relationship with Brian is just $10K a month. So I paid $25K when I came on with Brian for the first month, and then I just pay $10K a month, but I could quit any month.
Because the Zoom calls are so valuable for me, when would the Zoom calls be for the quill? Because that's going to be a huge important part of it.
It is, they're down here. Our weekly calls are Mondays at 4. Mondays, 4 p.m. Author Castle Standard, and it works exactly the same.
So in terms of like keeping us accountable, like we had base camp in 9 weeks and deadlines and so basically over the 14 months we're going to get deadlines for getting your funnel up and doing this.
No, not exactly. You still have base camp, and you will have deadlines exactly like you've had for the book. So to get your book published in the next 60 days will seem exactly like the last ones. You'll have one more person involved, which will be your editor. In terms of your funnel, everybody's is different, so I don't really have to-dos. You give me the to-dos, and you post them on the first of every month, and then we check in every week to make sure you did them. But everyone's stuff is so different because everybody has a different awareness, everybody has different lead magnets, some people's are created.
So what do you mean by check-in though? Because when we're doing check-ins, the author calls were kind of more like about the book, whereas is it checking in kind of, okay, did you hit your mark? Did you meet those people? So everybody in the quill, you're going to go around the group and say.
I don't necessarily do everybody because not everybody has everything to say. But you've been on the calls. I mean, yeah, they're pretty active.
Yeah, I mean, all the conversations are on the marketing plan, and each of us have a different, like you said, a different plan.
Right.
The way I say it is what would make, so it's right now it's May, so what would make May awesome? And then everybody knows for them what would make May awesome. And if it is awesome, they share a win and we all get excited. And if it's not awesome, they tell us why and we fix it.
I mean, there's a lot of best practice sharing from the other authors because now we're not longer talking about the book anymore. We're talking about their business. So you hear what because you're gonna leave with the plan here, but then you're gonna hear what they're doing, and you might tweak it, and sometimes talk about tools. And I mean, it's just a best practice. That's what I call it, a best practice. Yeah. Best practice.
Or somebody just finds like a good service provider. Like right now, like Heather DeSantis, people are using her for PR and she's like killing it for people. So you'll see like somebody will pick up on something and then everybody starts like, oh, let's do that. Somebody will figure out something in Facebook advertising and share it. It's a little more I will say this, it's a little more intimate feeling than the book group because people are in it for longer. So they're kind of deeper French. So it's not like, hey, I'm going to know you for 2 months and then never know you again. And people are connected to their group. Like there was just somebody posted yesterday, like 4 people met in New York. Did you see that picture? Yep. So like they meet up separately. There is I do nothing to encourage or discourage this, but there is some amount of hiring each other within the group. So like there's one person who is like a bookkeeper, accountant person, Liz, who I've noticed 3 or 4 people have hired. So there's some level of working. A couple people have hired Rachel, who's our stylist, one of the stylists in the group. A couple people have hired her. So I don't facilitate that, but I definitely have noticed that happens. And a lot of people have hired Tamara for chakra readings.
So you were able to control the size of the group with the other ones because people keep, leaving. So how are you controlling the size of the quill group as people keep entering? Because it's a year long?
Yeah.
Is it not a problem?
I'm not really, so far it's not a problem because there's so many live events, but I'm not really controlling it, but we do have an assistant who's pretty amazing. It's Tammy Stackelhouse. So she runs additional bonus calls and then I'll just add more of those people. And the trick is they are my Plume members. So they're the people who have written 2 or 3 books with us, who have been around for a couple years. So Steph Gold is going to come in and do some classes. And so it won't be me, but it'll be people who have been with me for 2 or 3 years doing bonus classes.
Lower number of 1,000 per month feels more realistic and right with my time constraints. So with that, I reworked this so my funnel will look like at 1,000 per month, I need 100 calls to reach 10 people to get 1 close.
At 1,000 a month, you're going to need 1 close, which is 4 calls. And I would recommend, 4 calls. So it's a 1-to-4 ratio. So that's 4 calls. And then I would recommend to get those calls, literally just make a list of 100 places and start calling. I wouldn't do any awareness. I wouldn't do any lead magnets other than when you get them on the phone, I would send them your book, email them your book if they're interested. But I would just make a list of places that might hire you and start calling. And that is just direct awareness.
So 1,000 is my low number, the monthly, and my end is the 10,000.
Love it.
Got it.
Totally love it. And I will just do direct outreach.
Just direct. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm sure it's in the agreement, but could you, the editor, the person that we write, how much access to her or him?
Lots and lots for a very limited amount of time. So our editors work on 4 books at a time. So there are 6 editors and they work on 4 books at a time. For the most part, that's all they're doing. Some of them are life coaches and they might have 1 or 2 clients, but it's their main gig. And you probably talk to them 6 times a week. It depends on you a little bit. It's as much as you need, and it depends a little on your book because sometimes it might be more than you want. But basically, you've got a month with them to get your book ready. So it's 2 months before we publish, but then you're going to also be working with Jennifer, who's our art director. You're going to be working with Mila, who's going to help you. So a lot of the editing is done after 4 weeks because it's got to go to a proofreader. So we've got 6 proofreaders on staff. So once your book is edited, it goes to a proofreader, it goes to the designers. So 5 weeks, maybe if we're pushing it. 6 weeks, we're in hell. So that's really all the time. So you will have a lot of time with your editor, but in a short amount of time. And there's no group element to that. You're just on the phone, on email, in Basecamp, whatever you need to do to get it done.
So 2 questions. One is if you have internal graphics that you want to put in, I could do a stick figure and say, here's a style I want you to do that, or what's...
We don't design the internal graphics, but I will totally help you, but you will go to Upwork or Fiverr and you'll give them your stick figures and then we need it we'll do all the layout of it, but we don't actually do the interior graphic design.
Okay, and the second question is, you know, we're all at different places here. So is there a kind of a sweet spot you would recommend for somebody to be in the quill or not?
that's a
I mean,
great
do you-
question. So I will tell you there are people who are not in the sweet spot. This is very interesting. One of which is Kaylee and Bridget, who are the doctors I went to see in Portland. So they have a 7-figure business that's like a very successful medical business. And most of my 7-figure clients are in the Plume. And I have tried twice to move them in the Plume, and they're like, and the Plume is like, it's much more expensive. It's like much more expensive, and it's much higher, and it's much smaller. So there's like 12 people in the Plume. And I'm like, I will let you guys join for the rest of your contract without charging you more. Like, I feel like you have so much to add in the Plume, let me move. They're like, no, we like the quill. I'm like, come on. So I think you can love it and not be in the sweet spot, but the sweet spot is you've sold some stuff. I would say various things, but maybe your exact product you've sold fewer than 10 of, and you really want to get to a consistent revenue number. So most people, like there are some people in my group, one of which is Amy Burke. So Amy had several 10K months over the last 5 years, but they were totally random. They were like, she did a launch or she got one client for 10K. So it wasn't repeatable, and she never knew how much money she would have. It was like, if she happened to meet someone and they hired her and paid her, she would have more money than if she didn't. Like, it was random. So even though she had had many 10K months, she didn't have the consistency. So now she's doing 50K a month consistently, which is totally different than like a random 10K. I would say most people have had 5K. You know, 5K doesn't seem weird. Like, they've had 5K months. Maybe they've had a 10K month. They've had lots of goose egg months, and they just want consistency. Even if it's $8,000 a month, they're just like, can I just know what I'm going to make next month? And I would say most people in the group get to 10K relatively quickly. And then there's 20% superstars that get to 50K within the year. And I have a couple people who've gotten to 100K a month within the year.
Did you have anybody starting from even less than that? Like if they're doing a career trains, for example, they were doing one
Yes.
job and now to another, and they want to do this.
Bunch of those. So what I found with those people is, the one thing I will say is, when you are in a job, those are the people who have had the least success. I'm just being totally honest. They have the same intentions. It's just hard to prioritize. But people who have left their job, which there's a bunch of, and we have like Amari who gave his notice last week, which was awesome. People who have left their job or have a plan to leave within the first 3 to 6 months, they do pretty well. There are lots of people who are at zero and just started their business. I would say, 20% of people, or start, like Tamara started her business in December when she joined Idea to Done. And like now she's consistently at 10, 15, 20,000 a month. It's 6 months later, she's ready to, she'll get to 100K by the end of her year, and she like just started her business. So there are lots of people who came in at zero. If you do this, it works. If you argue with me and try and find other ways, like, can I do 2 things? Can I just add a low end program? Like, I'm just thinking just to get people interested, like, you know, there's something that came up with somebody who is a career changer. And this week she's like, I finally figured it out. I'm so excited. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do my own podcast. And I was like, fantastic. How are we getting people there? And she was like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, so that's a joy. Like, that's fine. You can do that. But that's not other people's audience. Like, people avoid selling. Really, what I do every week is I point out the ways that people are avoiding selling.
That's all I want to know, is that you do that for me.
I will do that for you. Because it doesn't feel like you're avoiding selling. It feels like you're going to Like, I went on a Danube River cruise and did not miss a second with my family, and I made 3 sales. I went to Portland and fixed my shoulder and took my kitten, and I made 5 sales, but I got a return. That Tina, why did she drop out? So sad about her. She was so perfect, and she just freaked herself out. Anyway, so I never get returns. I play them in my head because I know like I could have changed her life and I could have changed so many people around her's lives. And I just I was on a plane when she made the decision to quit. I was like, oh, if I wasn't on the plane, like her entire future could be different. Never happens. I hate getting returns. So anyway, that's basically it. It feels very real. It feels like, but I'm on a Danube River cruise with my family. Like, but I'm at the doctor's. Like, surely I shouldn't be making sales now. Like, maybe if you've hit your numbers for the month. I hadn't hit my numbers for the month.
It's a lifestyle, it seems to me.
Well, this is what I would say. Kinney Shoes. Kinney Shoes isn't a lifestyle, it's a fucking business. Right? So Kinney Shoes isn't like, well, the CEO's on vacation this week, so I guess we just won't worry about shoe sales. Right? So people talk about this whole like it's a lifestyle or lifestyle business or whatever, but my thing is like, no, it's just a business. If it's a business, there are monthly numbers that you are going to fucking hit or go out of business. There's not a lot of drama about it. It's a business. Or it could not be a business, in which case I hope your husband makes a lot of money and then you could have a hobby and that will be fun. And that's great. It's fucking fantastic. I didn't pick that card in this particular lifetime, but like if that's what we're doing, like that's perfectly fine. But if it's a business and you're going on vacation for a week and you've hit your numbers for the month, like Joanne Philomena did this month, you go on vacation and you don't make any sales. And if it's a business and you haven't hit your numbers for the month, you have someone on your team make sales. I haven't figured out how to do that yet, but I'm working on it. Oh, I actually did. When I was in Serbia, none of you were on this, but when I was in Serbia, Majid, I had somebody on my team make a sales call for me for the first time because I had not hit my numbers for April. And we still came up 4 short for April, but I fucking hustled until April 30th. And if April had 31 days, I would have been hustling on April 31st. I'm not happy we didn't hit our numbers for April, but I didn't like give up because I was going on vacation. I was like, what if we have Majid make a call? And he closed a sale. That was one sale I wouldn't have gotten. Like, what if we send an email to everybody who I accepted last time but didn't buy and give them I was like, let's give them an offer that that our prices are going up. I think I might have even sent that email. Like, send that our prices are going up and see if anybody wants to close. I sent from the boat like 200 individual emails to people. Like, we did not hit our number for April. That means that I did everything I could to hit it. Because it's a business.
Question was about publishing the second book. How does that work?
I don't include publishing. I do include this event. So you, of course, can set up your own pre-order. You know, you'll be here and you'll set up the pre-order and you can publish on your own. Or if you end up renewing or there's some other offer, like if it's at the end of your term or whatever.
So you go with the quill again?
Yeah, or I'll invite you into the plume. Yeah. So basically, it includes writing the book and getting the pre-order set up. And at that point, you'll either need to, hire and you'll get, obviously, my comments and all that stuff. So you'll either need to hire an editor, and do it on your own. And by the time you're done, you probably won't be around for the red carpet. So it doesn't include publishing. I could add a way to just buy the publishing package separately. I haven't thought about it yet.
The property, in terms of the book itself, owning it, like is there?
Oh, intellectual property is all yours.
And the book itself,
All
I don't know
yours.
how, if I'm asking it right, if there is even such a, ownership of the book, because
It's the copyright that you're probably talking about. And even if even if your book goes into bookstores, you will maintain the copyright. You won't have to pay to use your title, your name, your book. You could hand it out at events. You could sell it at events. You can do whatever you want with it. If you're ready to build your business with a book, take my free class at pageuppodcast.com.